Hi, everybody. Hope you can all see me. And welcome. Welcome to this, your office, as it is also my office at this moment in this day. So today we are live and not in our usual place. And therefore, I want to thank my team in the first place. And also, I want to thank the universe, the energy, and the internet, of course, that makes it possible for me to be anywhere and call it my office. So I hope it's not your case that you are in a rushy place where you have to be in a queue in rush hours every day to go to your office. Well, actually, I'm going to just move the sightseeing a little bit to this location. And the first challenge to you is to ask if you know where I am sitting at this moment on the grass. So I'm in a very special place, and I'm sure that most of you know where I am sitting at the moment. And actually, I'm not the first one being here, as what is behind me is historical. It is, yes, I've got already one message, and it's saying Evora. Yes, I am in a beautiful historical place called Evora. And more particularly, what you see behind me are ruins from a Roman temple. So I'm not the first one being here. I will certainly not be the last one. And um, I just wanted to share this beautiful location with you and be here in this place. I hope that my audition is good, as I can sense a little bit of wind, which is also great as I'm in the out field. And what brought me here is, among other things, water treatment. So I had to visit some clients today here in order to help them and to do some consulting on water treatment. And therefore, I had this opportunity to share with you this beautiful place. So, if you don't know yet Evora, it's a fantastic place, full of history, full of future as well, as this is a very old, but also at the same time a very modern city with lots of students, universities, companies, many international companies coming here, developing their craft, their new ideas, and so on behalf of Evra citizens, I would like to invite you all to come here. What brought us to this live today, as you could see on the title, is how can we do the unironing treatment of water in a sustainable way? Well, first, let's go a step back and try to understand, what does this mean of sustainable? What does this really mean? Because if for my own interest and for my own benefit I need to compromise a bigger part of energy or resources from outside of me, that means having to explore nature in a different way, or if I have to exhaust some other resources or sources of energy, is that really sustainable? Just for me to have a clear, treated liter of water without iron, how can I do that on a more biological and sustainable way? Well, that is my search and my work for the last years. And as you can remember in some of our presentations, in order to bring down the iron out of the water, we need to be able to do an upgrade on the pH of the water, which is normally acid or a little bit below 7. And as you could understand from our presentations, also from our last live on Instagram, I shared with you what is the normal way of treatment, which is raising up the pH. Now, raising up the pH is not very easy to do on a natural, sustainable way. And therefore, we need to use some chemical products, some pH plus, that is normally sodium hydroxide, that we can normally recommend to raise up the pH. Well, that is not a biological product, as you know. So I've been searching how we can differ that, how we can do that in a different way. And in my newer projects, as a result of some own experiments with using this new technology, well, new for me but not new in its own existence, is by using a biological extract of a plant, a tree. And that extract is called the tannino, and that is actually the classification of the product that we use. And that product is able to do the pre-treatment and the sedimentation of the iron that is present in the water. So not the totality of it, but a greater part, without needing to be influenced by a higher pH. So we don't need to raise up the pH according to um, the, sorry, I'm just being asked to try to stabilize the computer. Well, as actually it's sitting on my knees, so every time I move it bounces a little bit, so that's what it is. So as I was saying, the not need of having a artificial chemical pre-treatment of the pH in advance, in forehand, makes it so that we can approach a more sustainable and a more biological way of doing the pre-treatment. And then, of course, that goes along with the first sedimentation. So that is one of the ways of doing it on a more sustainable way. The other more biological or sustainable solution to do the removal of the iron is also to use natural calcite, in this case, that we can allow the water to pass through in the right tempo. And this tempo means a certain slow flow, so that nature can do its work, and so that the need for stabilization of the pH can occur on a more effective way, on a more tranquil way. So those are the two main things and main aspects that I wanted to share with you as in the beginning. The second thing that I want to bring up to you on this live, and this is exclusively, sorry for all of the people outside of Portugal, and I'm not including the Portuguese islands as Madeira and Azores. Apologies for that, because I cannot go out of this area in order to give you this offer. So what I'm going to offer you at the end of this presentation is a challenge. If you have a situation that you need to remove the excess of iron of your water source for your household usage, I'm going to offer you a full consultancy follow up from A to Z, from start to finish, including the needed water analysis on the laboratory that we will need to do. So it doesn't matter if you are in the south of Portugal or in the north of Portugal, east or west, it doesn't matter. Just share with us, and we have this special offer for the one project that we can assign together with you, where we can commit a double commitment, which is I commit from my side that I'm going to do completely for free the full consulting, the full design, and the full drawing of the technical solution. I'm also going to present you where and how you can achieve and purchase those needed elements and components and parts and filters and tanks and pumps, whatever. So I'm going to list it all out to make the full project, and I'm going to do the follow-up and up to the end, where we can then do the after analysis. So that means, like we did for the rainwater collection, as you remember. So yesterday I was able to hand over the workbook, the project book, to the winner of that contest, and today I'm launching this to you. So for the first one that will share with us that you are able to be a candidate, a valid candidate, so that we can follow up your project for the next 2 to 3 months. Um, I'm going to be with you hand in hand, developing the full project without knowing any um, any pricing and any invoice on my side. So it's a full free consultancy project for you. So that is what I wanted to bring and to share with you on today's live. Apart from what I was just briefly introducing to you as how we can do on a biological, sustainable way the removal of the iron out of your water. So if you have any questions, please use the chat to bring up your questions. As today, as you know, it's not a lecture, it's not a presentation, it's an open office for you in this beautiful background and in this beautiful city as I'm sitting. So if you have any questions, I'm able more than willing to answer them. And and I'm wishing you a great life. And also, I wish that everybody could have the opportunity to work anywhere they wish, as I'm doing right now. So it's a pleasure and a privilege. I've got here one question from one viewer that says, "What does biological treatment exactly mean?" Well, a biological reaction is actually a reaction that can occur without the need of using chemical components, chemical parts. So, if we use a product that is extracted from a living organism, like the product that I was just referring, that is extracted and made like you make a tea out of some leaves from plants, the extract from there is not artificially transformed. So it was not necessary to have any chemical reaction besides dehydration, so the drying of that material, that liquid, in order for us to do an easy transport and then dilute it again in water, so bringing it back to its natural position. So it's basically an extract, like the solving, the absorption of the tanino that is in this particular tree, and that means that it did not need any chemical intervention in order to maintain it as a biological product. That is what it means by a biological treatment. And then all of the other processes, like the absorption, retention, sedimentation, and clearing of the clear water, allowing it to sink down, that is all a physical and a normal biological process. No chemicals needed in that process. Thank you for that question. So I don't know if there is any other question. Yes. The question asked here is, what type of bacteria are utilized and how do these bacteria treat the water? Well, actually, it's on the contrary, it's on the reverse. When we have iron water, there are particular bacteria that develop together with iron, and they can create like a film, like a crust. And that is sometimes what we see on the inside of the pipes. It's like that slimy sludge, brownish forming of sedimentation that it looks like clay, but that is an accumulation of iron tolerant bacteria that grow in iron rich environments. So those bacteria, they are not welcome in our water treatment for the sake of the water quality, the bacteriological water quality. So first we need to bring them down and remove them out of the water, and in this case using a biological system. So the usage of a biological pre-treatment along with the coagulation, the sedimentation of the iron in the pre-treatment will allow those bacteria to to settle together with the tanino and be brought down so that they can be flushed out back into nature, back into the environment. So those are the bacteria that we need to remove out of our water because they grow in iron-rich water. Another question is, why is it that the treatment is that the biological treatment is considered more sustainable? Well, that is a very good question, because if we don't pay attention to what is the total, let's put it this way: imagine the carbon footprint that we need in order to produce the necessary products that we are going to use in our treatment. Imagine that the carbon footprint or the water footprint for the possibility of having that product is more influential on the negative part than using some other products that on the balance of that footprint could be less sustainable. Well, it depends on what are the side effects of the chemical industry that is needed in order for us to have, for instance, in this case, the pH plus product that we can use, which is normally sodium hydroxide. So it's a matter of balancing how much is the price that the environment has to pay for us to have both options. And as a Zen master once said, is that no matter how hard you try, the only presence of you being alive means already compromising some other micro or macro organism and some other form of life in this planet. So just to give an example, at this very moment, I'm sitting on the grass, and probably underneath me there are ants and other animals, and probably at this very moment I'm sacrificing the life of the existence of these forms of life. So it's always a question of putting on a scale what is the footprint, the carbon footprint, energetic footprint, water footprint of one product and the other on the other side, and then make your own choice. Well, I prefer to use biological products that don't need to have a chemical intervention, although I'm a fan of the chemical industry because it brought us to where we are at this stage in 2026. And like I said before, I'm grateful for all of the invents, all of the techniques, all of the chemistry, all of the Nobel Prizes, and everybody that has contributed for us to be in this particular moment right here. So I'm not against it. I'm in favor of everything and every development, but also all those Romans that built that beautiful monument behind me, they also had chemistry in their own way. And the evolvement and the development of mankind and humanity brought us to this particular moment. So I'm grateful for every particular thing that has been created up to now and what's coming. So thank you for that question. There's another question: is are the sustainable solutions always more expensive? I have no answer for it because it depends and will vary from all of the solutions that we have available at the moment. So what is now a reality will no longer be a reality in 5 minutes from now. Just think for yourself, how much did a computer cost 20 years ago compared to how much does it cost right now? How much was the internet server 5 years from ago from what it is from now? So it will depend. I have no answer for it, and I cannot say that the sustainable or more sustainable solutions are more expensive. I don't believe so. What I do think is that if we consider that they are more sustainable, the word sustainability means that we can perpetuate doing what we are doing at the moment for a longer period of time, because we are less compromising what we are doing in the future. So that is probably my answer, or my best answer is, it's not a matter of how much does it cost now on the today's value, but how much will that cost in the future. To give you an example, if what I'm doing today with my behaviors, you choosing the products I'm choosing, if that's going to implicate for me or for the next generations to clean up the mess that I've been doing in this particular moment using the products that I'm using right now. So imagine that even if the cost is now less, but if the consequence of using that cost is going to be more um, effort, then I believe that we have to look it not from the perspective of the now, but the overall picture, not only for the now, but the now plus 50 years. Just to give you an example, in an old days, not so long ago, we were used to have asbest ceilings covering many of the schools and many of the buildings, and it was like a cheap solution at the time to do quick roofing on buildings. Nowadays, the cost of removing them and to neutralize the environmental effects of it are really very high compared to what they cost to install in the first place. So I think that that's more or less what we are facing with that question. So thank you for that question. Another question is, why is the water treatment not porque é que o tratamento de água deixará de ser opcional? Why will it not be an option to do the water treatment in the future? Well, actually, the answer is not only in the future. The water treatment is not only needed in the future, it's also needed now, because the today's standards for the quality of our drinking water are have evaluated. Probably our bodies need to have a better qualified water regarding chemical and bacteriological aspects, and probably because we live less and less out in the field, we drink less water out from the natural springs, so probably our immune systems are not adequate anymore as our ancestors were, that they could just take water from a well, take water with iron, take water from a natural spring, and they could drink it easily, probably because their immune system were not so vulnerable as the ones we have now. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not a medical doctor, so I cannot answer that question. But what I see is that in order for us to have certified water in our houses, we need to fulfill the requirements that are established by the regulations. So therefore, we need to certify, validate, and assure that the water is chemically and bacteriologically proper for domestic usage and for human consumption. So that means that from what I see, it's very, very rare that we can take a sample of water, bring it to the lab, and say, thank you, universe, for having this beautiful water just ready to go. So that's my answer to you. Another question is, o tratamento substitui todos os outros tratamentos if the biological treatment replaces all other treatments? The answer is no, of course not. Otherwise, we would not need to have so many people studying chemistry, biochemistry, and implementing solutions that we need in order to grow our population. I'll give you an example. The people that built the empire and all of the civilization that built this monument behind me, the Romans, they built water systems everywhere throughout Europe and the north of Africa, and including in the west of Asia. In order to bring water from A to B, they had to drain and had to create aqueducts and beautiful infrastructures. Well, actually, they also had to make sure that the water quality sustained and was kept secure. And actually, one of the reasons that the army, the how can you say it, the legions, the legions of the Romans started to become weaker and weaker, and the population started to get infections, and some viruses and bacteria started to proliferate in the water. That was one of the causes that the Roman Empire started to become weaker and weaker. And not only that, if you remember that there is one particular bacteria that we can find in treated water, if the water gets or stays stagnant for a longer period, and the Legionella bacteria will grow in that water that was previously perfectly treated. Well, that was and is nowadays also a health issue. So answering if the biological treatment replaces any other treatment, no, not at all. But just to give you an example, we need the chemicals in order to annihilate and in order to prevent the growth of Legionella in our water systems. So I hope that I could answer you that question. Another question is, the system will work autonomously, or does it need a constant monitoring? And is there a frequent monitoring needed? Well, I would say that if you buy a car, even if you buy an electric car, and you know that the only thing you need to do is have it plugged when the battery is unloaded, once in a while you need to check on your brakes, and you need to check on the tires and also the pressure of your tires in order to make it so that you can have a safe drive. Well, the same goes to any system that you can have, especially a system that will operate with pumps, pressure, tanks, sedimentation, flocculation, and pre-treatment. So all systems need a certain attention. Some systems are more in the need of a more frequent intervention, both from the user and also from the technician. And so there are some systems that will require a technical supervision every year, some of them every 6 months, some of them will probably need a more frequent intervention. So there is no system that will not need an intervention. If we don't do any intervention, then I'm always bringing this as an example, because the lack of intervention in that temple brought it to be a ruin at the moment. So we only see some parts of it. We can't celebrate any event like they used to do centuries and centuries ago, because the maintenance was stopped, and so erosion started to go in. So thank you for that question, because maintenance is one very critical point, because many people are lazy, in the sense that they think that they purchase a system and then that's it for all, and for the rest of their lifetimes it will always function. It's not the case. Some elements need some attention, some replacement, some parts will have to be replaced or renewed or maintained. Thank you. Another question is this type of sorry, I'm translating at the moment. So eerste type de systemen gedoe dus cursus de manutenção. So will a biological, that is what I can deduct from the question, is if a biological system or a biological and more sustainable way will reduce the costs on maintenance. My first answer is not so much, because the price of the products that we use instead of the chemical ones are more or less comparable for the same quantity of water that we need to deal and to process. So the answer is no, it's not relevant. The difference is not relevant. Okay, so thank you for that question. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm enjoying everything. And You can't see from the other side as at the moment. Well, I'm going to show you a little bit more. I'm just sitting here in this beautiful place, and this because this is a touristic place. Many tourists come along, take pictures of that monument, and they just stand like half a meter in front of me, and they are thinking that I'm just probably some lunatic one doing some live selfish presentation. Well, actually, I'm so glad that I'm sharing this with you, and I'm so glad that I can call this my office for these couple of minutes that I'm here. So thank you, universe, for making this a beautiful piece of heaven in this earth. So thank you. Sorry, and grateful for you to be here, and I'm so grateful for all of the support and all of the cheering that I receive from anonymous people when I cross them in the most um, unexpected places, that people recognize me from the work that we do, and it's a pleasure serving you. And once more, I want to thank my team that is basically the full support of everything that you see online. Okay, I have two left hands for technology, especially for the outside communication. So every time that you want to interact with me, you're not interacting with me alone. You are interacting with a team where we have a professional team guiding you, responding, receiving, filtering all of the information so that I can be more at your service in order to bring you what you need. And the other part of the work, like the graphics, it's done in another part of of this world. So we are on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. So thank you, William, and your team for supporting us on all of the graphics and all of the production, the visual and the audio contents. And thank you, Mariana, for being your professional help on this project as well. There are three more questions that I'm going to answer before closing off and before reinforcing the offer that I want to bring up as a challenge for today. And the three questions, I'm going to read them in a moment in all at once. So does is this o que acontece se forem utilizados produtos químicos agressivos? Well, the question is, what can happen if we use more aggressive chemical products in water treatment? Well, what I can say is water is part of us. We are more than 70% water, and all of the water inside our cells need to be treated, cherished, and loved. Not only loved from the outside, also loved from the inside. Also, the way you talk to yourself is influencing the vibration of the molecules of the water that is inside yourself and that is in contact with your vital organs. So, if we are being aggressive with the water outside of us, like trying to force the water that we are going to drink or where we are going to shower with, if we are going to be aggressive in the sense that we are just not going to care about the whole balance, the harmonic balance of the vibration of that water, I believe, and that's my conviction, I believe that when we put that water inside our bodies and when our blood gets that water and brings it into the whole totality of our body, I believe that that's not going to be very beneficial. But once again, I'm not a medical doctor, so I cannot answer that directly. It's just my sense, my feeling. And on that, saying that, if any time that you are going to be in contact with water, and we are now approaching summer here in Portugal, so if before you enter a swimming pool or the ocean or a lake or a river for your own recreation, if you just stand a moment to contemplate that water, and if you ask yourself permission to interact on an energetic field with the molecules of the water that will be bathing you, and at the same time, every time that you take a glass of water and you stand for a moment and you contemplate the gift that it is to be alive and have that opportunity to drink that water and to make that water part of you. As like I've said many times, that for me there are only two types of water. It's the water outside of me and the water inside of me. And every time that I do an interaction between the two worlds, the outer world and my inner world, if I make it so that I can find a balance between those two worlds, I believe that it's like being in an office sitting on a beautiful grass in a touristic place in the middle of the Alentejo. So it's finding harmony. So I don't believe that using aggressive chemicals is in benefit of anything. So I believe that chemistry and all of the scientists are well trained in order to find the perfect balance between the good and the optimum. And I believe that it's a tenno line, a very small line that splits what's good from what's optimum. I'm not talking about the negative parts. So when we find that we have a good solution, we can always look at it, embrace it, be grateful for it, and then upscale it a little bit, vibrate with it a little bit, and make it even better by being grateful for having that solution. So I'm not a fan of having aggressive products and then having to regret afterwards. So thank you for that question. Well, I can see that there are two more questions. I will not leave them unanswered. So what are the advantages by using a natural product like the Tenino for the water treatment? Well, I think I've answered that question already. It's like if we can nurture our needs with something that we can use that is not chemically interfered, I believe that we are receiving what nature gave us already in the beginning. So I believe that that is an advantage, regardless if it's more expensive or less expensive, if it's more difficult or less difficult. But if we can make it so that we don't need to change anything and that we don't have a side effect of it. The other question is, does the water can be reused after the treatment and for what exactly? Well, that's a very good question. Thank you for that. Well, if we understand that we have water with ferrous iron diluted, and when it oxidizes, as you saw in our last presentation on Instagram, and I invite you to review that one, that we have a crystal clear water, and after a while that water has transformed its color because it transformed from ferrous to ferric. Well, if we bring that down and we are able to flush it out, what we are actually flushing out when we are using a biological product like the Tanino is actually having the concentrated iron. And actually, if you go to your local biological supplier of plants and trees, some plants need iron in order for them to be in a better healthy state. So imagine that you have in your garden and you discharge that water with a very high concentration of sludge iron without any chemical. And if that's going to be mixed with your soil, then the answer would be find in that particular place plants that are going to love to live in that environment. So that is, I think, the answer to the question. So thank you for all your questions. If by any chance you have more questions related to unironing water treatment, feel free to send us an email, a message. You know how to reach to us. But if you have your own particular project where you think you can be contemplated with my offer, our offer of today, send us a message, candidate, and then this, which is now an open book, will be our logbook for your water treatment and for your water project from start to finish, and with one condition, that we can share all of the knowledge that you and I will accumulate with your own project, and that we can share it, that we can register it, that we can video it, that we can share it to all our viewers. We don't need to say where you are living, but we would like to show your case study, and so that many people can learn from it and can do it themselves. That is the purpose of me doing this consulting. Of course, I still do water installations less and less, because I prefer to do more consulting, because this way I can reach up to more people and share the accumulated knowledge out of doing, out of learning, out of self-development, and out of learning from many masters. I want to bring up this knowledge to you, and that is my purpose, and that is my goal. So I want to thank you once more. Get your project in contact with our team so that we can select from all of the candidates, and then the first one that will be a valid project for us to do together, the project with you, you have that project from us for free. Thank you, and see you in our next live in a new office. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the office of today, and let's see what the future brings us. See you guys. Love for you all.